Hello, 13teenCreepypasta here, and today I'm going to read a relatively short creepypasta called Game. So here we go. As my life continues, I will never forget this tragic moment that I have had to face. When I was about 5 years old, my dad used to bring me old games every time he came back from work. When I was that age, I didn't know much about the games my dad used to bring me, so I usually just put them in my Nintendo 64. But then one day, my dad brought me a game that I have never heard of before. First of all, the label had a weird picture of a dog and a little boy in the back with a knife. At the time, I didn't know anything about murder or any type of violence at all, so I just continued on. Next, the game had the words Game next to it, so I just immediately put it in to see what it was. At the start of the game, the Nintendo 64 logo popped up, and when it disappeared, the game showed a dark, red screen and a loud screeching sound started to go on. I got scared, so I put on my Nintendo 64. I turned off my Nintendo 64 and went to go do other stuff. After a week, I had forgotten what had happened, and I went to play the game again. I turned on the N64, and instead of the red screen, the game gave up a text saying, "I know what you did, and I'm going to average him." I got scared and started to cry. That's when my dad came into the room. He asked, "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" I told him everything that had happened. So then after about 2 days, we went to where my dad had got the game. When we got there, police were all over the place. We asked one of the police officers what had happened, and he said that a store clerk had his face brutally ripped off. Alright, now, what did I think about this creepypasta? Well, it was well written, but there are a few holes in the story. Like, for example, when I was about 5 years old, it says my dad used to bring me old games. It also says, while I was that age, I didn't know that much about the games. But then, one day, your dad brought you home a game that you never heard of? Well, if you didn't know much about the games, then you probably never heard of it. The label had a weird picture of a dog and a little boy in the back with a knife. Your dad is, honestly, I don't think anyone's dad would bring home a game that has a picture of a boy with a knife in it to a 5-year-old kid. And you're 5, I think you at least know what a knife does. And let's see. When the Nintendo 64 logo popped up and disappeared, and it showed dark red and a loud screeching sound, you got scared, so you just turned it off and went to go do other stuff. However, when the screen said text saying, "I know what you did, and I'm gonna average him," which, what is, I'm gonna avenge? Oh, I'm gonna avenge him. Okay, anyway, the game gave up a text saying, "I know what you did, and I'm going to avenge him." All of a sudden, you get scared and start to cry. Now, you didn't even say much about the game, except that it just doesn't work. It's a pretty simple ROM hack. After a week, you had forgotten, and you told your dad everything that had happened. So, what did he do? So then, after about 2 days, you went to where he had got the game. Police were all over the place all of a sudden, and this wasn't on the news. You asked what happened, and a store clerk had their face brutally ripped off. Because of a game that has a loud screeching noise and says, "I'm going to avenge him, and I know what you did." Well, I guess "I'm going to avenge him" can give off a hint that "him" means the clerk, but what happened actually? I mean, it was well written, but it's kind of not really clear exactly what happened. It's not really clear what's going on. It needs more flow. I'd give it about a 6 out of 10. It's a short creepypasta. It's good, but it needs a bit more detail and elaboration. I hate to